Okay, this video is about the tools you're going to need to warp and weave your loom. To start with, depending on the loom you're using, if you need to put a preparation edge around the loom, such as this, then you will need probably a pearl needle would be a tapestry needle would be the easiest to use. And it'll depend on the size of your thread, what size tapestry needle you use, but also it will depend on the size of the holes in your loom. If they're too small, for example the Dewberry Ridge looms, the holes are very small, you'll have to scale down the size of your needle, and so you may find you can't use as thick a thread as you planned. On the other hand, with a loom like this one, you can go ahead and use almost any size thread. I managed to score 50 needles from a place on Amazon, a Chinese supplier on Amazon, and those are the ones that I've given out to you for this class. You can also find, some people use bent needles. Dewberry Ridge sent me one that looks like this, but actually I was able to buy essentially the same thing from Fabricland. And I found, this is from Gina B. Silkworks. She sent that with a loom that I bought, but I actually find the bend irritating, so I don't go there. John James makes something called long darners, and they're pretty good. And sorry, I had some, oh yes, bookbinders needles can work. And Laces actually sells something that they call Teneriffe Lace needles. I find them a little thin, but and also quite fine. So I find, depending on the thread I'm using or the yarn I'm using, they're too fine. So you'll have to play it. Some of them are almost 5 inches long that I've found, and some are more like 3.5. So quite a bit of variety is possible. Okay. You'll want to have some low tack tape, painter's tape. This is just washi tape, but whatever you have would be good. Anything that won't leave a residue on the yarn or loom. I like to use this kind of ruler. I like this gauge function because it allows me to see how wide I want to make. If I want to make the next row out just half a centimeter, then that tells me where half a centimeter is, and I find that very useful. But you can just use a plain small ruler of some kind. Pen and paper, of course. Thimble if you're a thimble user, and if you're not, don't worry about it. A small pair of thread snips, nice and sharp, would be good. And some fray check or some other glue like that that dries clear and fairly quickly would be desirable. Okay, we'll move on to the looms.